speakers, and once they'd moved to Ireland to start a family, that's how they'd raised him and his sisters. They'd tried to teach him a few words over the years, but he didn't have much interest in learning, so when his grandmother sat beside him on the bed, he prepared himself for a few long minutes of hesitations and the slow searching for words in English that always accompanied the rather pointless stories of her childhood. But she was his Ia Agba, and he loved her. So Adadayo smiled and pretended with all his heart to be interested in whatever she had to say. She surprised him then by telling him something so brain-punchingly interesting that it changed his life forever. She told him, in that hesitant way of hers, that magic was real, and that she was magic, and so was he. At first, he thought she was just telling him a story to entertain him. But when she clicked her fingers and conjured a fireball into her hand, it all started to make sense. The odd occurrences, the weird coincidences, the objects that moved on their own. That was magic. His grandmother explained that there were rules for people like them. There were styles of magic he could specialize in, other magical people, sorcerers or mages he could meet. She told him about the sanctuaries around the world and the wars that had been fought between the sorcerers who wanted to enslave ordinary people and the sorcerers who wanted to protect them. He had such a life ahead of him, she said, such wonders to uncover. She taught him some things, how to move objects by manipulating the air around them, how to make strands of energy dance in the palms of his hands, how to click his fingers and generate sparks. She told him about the 3 names that sorcerers have, the name they're given, the name they take, and their true name, the source of all their power. But she was an old woman, and a few weeks after his 15th birthday, her health deteriorated so much she had to be taken to hospital. Her energy dipped so that she lost all of her English and could only speak the language of her childhood. When Adadayo went in to sit with her, she woke, took his hand, and said weakly, "Ma, she, apoti." Then she smiled and closed her eyes. "Ma, she, apoti," he repeated in his head. "Ma, she, apoti." He made a note to ask his folks what that meant, but it slipped his mind, and his grandmother passed away later that night, and Adadayo was left with a lifetime of questions, a heart full of grief, and a polished wooden box. His grandmother had insisted that it had to go to him, apparently, that only he would know what to do with it. The box was the size of a biscuit tin. It had carvings across the lid and along the sides, carvings that looked like letters, that looked like words, but weren't. There was no lock, no latch, no way to open it. There was nothing inside, though, or there didn't seem to be when Adadayo's mum shook it. His dad tried prising the lid off with a screwdriver. Didn't work. The wooden box had been sitting on Adadayo's desk, under a pile of pristine textbooks and dog-eared graphic novels, for weeks, when Adadayo woke in the middle of the night, suddenly knowing how to open it. He got out of bed, crossed the dark room, and cleared the junk off the lid. He tapped the carvings on the box's left and right sides, then pressed, then tapped again, and moved his fingers in a swirling motion. A dim blue light shone from between the carvings, travelling across the box in strange swirling patterns. There were sounds from inside, like wooden cogs turning. And then there was a click. 2. Suddenly apprehensive, and not a little nervous, Adadayo ever so slowly lifted the lid. Inside was dark. Inside was empty. But something in that emptiness reached out, and Adadayo went rigid, his fingers splayed, his legs locked straight, his head back